So basically, what happened is that this piece of garbage illegal immigrant, and he's not a piece of garbage because he's an illegal immigrant. He's a piece of garbage who is an illegal immigrant. He was walking around on the pier, and he has the gun. The defense says that he found the gun on the pier. Okay, this is like the lamest excuse ever. How many times have you been walking around and just find a gun lying around? You're walking around and boom, look, there's a gun. Okay, it never happens. And the idea that this happens in San Francisco on a regular basis is insane. San Francisco has some of the tightest gun laws in the nation. So he says that he's walking around, he finds a gun, he picks it up, he goes, a gun. He picks it up, and then magically the gun just goes off. It is clear from the evidence that the bullet hit the cement before it hit Steinle. So it wasn't like he picked up the gun, aimed it at Steinle, shot her in the back. Okay, he picked up the gun, he fired it, it bounced off the concrete, it hit Kate Steinle in the back, it killed her. And the defense was that that he's a moron. That basically he was walking around, hey, look, a gun. He picks it up. It goes boom in his hand for no reason at all. It's just a pure accident. The bullet bounces, it skips off the concrete and hits Kate Steinle in the back and she dies. The problem with this particular theory is severalfold. One, the gun had been missing for 4 days from a federal agent's car. Somehow it just winds up in the hands of this illegal immigrant. Criminal, repeat criminal. It's just magic. It was like a normal person who found it on the boardwalk over at the San Francisco Pier. It wasn't me, it wasn't you. It was an illegal immigrant who's been deported 5 times. Right? Just magically. Amazing how that works. He picks it up. They question him, and during the questioning, he says that he was trying to fire it at the seals. That he saw a seal out there, or a sea lion, and he was trying to fire it at a sea lion, and then his story changed, and he said that it fired by accident. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, defense lawyers said the shooting was an accident that happened when Garcia Zarate, who had a history of drug crimes but no record of violence, found the gun wrapped in a T-shirt or cloth under his seat on the pier just seconds before it discharged in his hands. Because that's what I do. When I see like a bundle of cloth under my seat at a public pier, I reach down and I start investigating, and if I find a gun, I go, ooh, a gun. Okay, Matt Gonzalez of the Public Defender's Office said his client had never handled a gun. Yes, I'm sure. And was scared by the noise, prompting him to fling the weapon into the bay. Okay, so number one, if you accidentally fire a gun, so apparently he says he was scared by the noise. It wasn't that he shot the woman and then thought that he would be convicted of it, and so he threw the evidence away into the bay. Instead, he took the gun and he threw it in the bay because he was scared by the noise. That's what I do. When my child scares me, when my child makes a really loud noise and we're by the ocean, I just take my kid and fling him in the ocean. Let me just tell you, this is something that normal people do on a regular basis. Oh my God, a car backfired. Let's drive it into the ocean. That's it. That's something that you're scared of the fight. Oh my God, a gun made noise. What is this? Boom, boom stick. Okay, during the trial, jurors watched video from Garcia Zarate's 4-hour police interrogation in which he offered varying statements about his actions on the pier. Number one, when someone constantly changes their story, that's a pretty good indicator they're not telling the truth. Okay, at one point, he said he had aimed at a sea animal. At another point, he said the gun had been under a rag that lay on the ground near the waterfront and that it fired when he stepped on it. Gonzalez said it was clear in the video. By the way, guns don't fire when you step on them. Just note to everybody, there are people who are saying that it was a Sig Sauer, and this is a Sig Sauer with a quick trigger because it was basically set up for a federal agent who knows how to use it. It only had 4 pounds of trigger pressure. Okay, even if it only has 4 pounds of trigger pressure, you can't step on a gun and it fires. Okay, as a typical rule. It's extraordinarily rare. Like, something has to actually push on the trigger in order to make the gun fire. That's not how guns fire, unless the hammer was already cocked or something. Gonzalez said it was clear in the video that he did not fully understand what the officers were asking through an officer's Spanish translation. Well, that's sort of his problem. I mean, they're speaking Spanish to him. It's not like they're speaking English and he doesn't understand. Grainy surveillance footage taken by the camera, positioned a quarter mile away, showed that just before Garcia Zarate took a seat on the pier, a group of 6 people gathered at the spot. Gonzalez said it was possible those people had discarded the gun that killed Steinle. Yes, I'm sure that's what happened. 6 people just gathered and decided that instead of throwing the gun in the bay to discard the gun, which is 5 feet away, they decided what would be better. We need to get rid of this gun. You know what we'll do? We'll just leave it lying around. Best idea I've ever had. We're not going to take this gun, toss it in the bay. No. We're just going to leave it right here for some poor, unsuspecting illegal immigrant to find and randomly shoot a lady. Okay, so Steinle was not hit directly, but rather the bullet hit the concrete ground and ricocheted up to hit her. The gun was a Sig Sauer, had been stolen 4 days prior. The defense also presented evidence that the Sig Sauer has a propensity to accidentally fire. So it has a hair trigger in single action mode. Apparently, among well-trained users, it has a lengthy history of accidental discharges. Okay, accidental discharges does not mean that you have not acted with criminal negligence. If you pick up a gun and you point it anywhere near the vicinity of people and your hand is anywhere near the trigger, that does not count as a pure accident, okay? A gun is a dangerous weapon. Everyone knows this. Okay, this is why you are taught when you buy a gun, when you train with a gun, you are taught never point the gun anywhere you're not willing to kill somebody. Never point the gun anywhere you're not willing to destroy. Never have your finger anywhere near the trigger if you don't mean to fire it. Okay, but the idea is that, again, this guy's a dunce, and he walks up, and he doesn't know what a gun is. It just looks like a fancy cheese cutter, and he picks it up, and then boom, it goes off in his hand because he never even touched the trigger. Okay, this is, so they say that this is the defense presenting a reasonable doubt case, and they said he's a homeless illegal immigrant, unfamiliar with the gun, and that's why. Okay, so I think that what happened here, if you're trying to make the best case for the jury, is that there was a prosecutorial overreach. So they pushed hard for a first-degree murder verdict or a second-degree murder verdict, which suggests that you must have intent, right? That you have to have intent to have killed. Involuntary manslaughter does not require intent. So the prosecution in this case said that he was playing like a game of Russian roulette in his head and just shot the lady. That's weak. What they should have charged was involuntary manslaughter. They overcharged, which a lot of prosecutors do. They overcharged. What they should have done is charge involuntary manslaughter. Second-degree murder in California is willful but not deliberate. Like, for example, you fire a gun into a crowded room. You don't mean to kill any specific person, but you know there's a good possibility somebody is going to die. Willful but not deliberate. Involuntary manslaughter in California, the standard is without malice, without intent to kill, with reckless disregard for human life. So the difference between involuntary manslaughter and excusable accident is participation in either an unlawful act not amounting to a felony, so that would be picking up an illegal gun, or a lawful act involving a high degree of risk of death or great bodily injury. That would involve picking up a gun and pointing it anywhere in the vicinity of people. And in fact, there's a law firm out here in California that has a defense law firm that has a very good rundown on this law. And the exact example they use of involuntary manslaughter is a woman who's in a fight with her husband, brandishing a gun at her husband. The gun accidentally goes off and kills her husband. Right? That falls under involuntary manslaughter. Okay, Jeff Sessions has a statement on this. Was clearly involuntary manslaughter. The jury could have found that. It's possible they decided to just throw out everything because the prosecutor didn't do their job. But whatever it is, this is an unjust verdict. The guy should be in prison for a very long time for at least involuntary manslaughter. And beyond that, the reason this is a political issue is because this bastard never should have been in the United States in the first place. He should not have been here. Now, President Trump, when he says we need a wall, the reason we need a wall is because it's not enough to just repeatedly deport people. You actually have to have some way of preventing them from recrossing into the country because you have sanctuary cities, you have places where these people can hide. You know, Trump should be making hay while the sun shines out of this because he is right. This is why Trump won. It's because of issues like the Kate Steinle issues I said last night on Fox News. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, issued a statement. The feds may bring charges of their own. Jeff Sessions said, when jurisdictions choose to return criminal aliens to the streets rather than turning them over to federal immigration authorities, they put the public safety at risk. San Francisco's decision to protect criminal aliens led to the preventable and heartbreaking death of Kate Steinle, while the state of California sought a murder charge for the man who caused Miss Steinle's death, a man who would not have been on the streets of San Francisco if the city simply honored an ICE detainer. The people ultimately convicted him of felon in possession of a firearm. So again, once you're a felon in possession of a firearm, if that firearm goes off and you kill somebody, it's pretty hard to see charging and convicting someone of felony possession of a firearm without also charging them with and convicting them of involuntary manslaughter in a case like this. The Department of Justice will continue to ensure that all jurisdictions place the safety and security of their communities above the convenience of criminal aliens. There should be blowback on sanctuary cities, and it shouldn't have to do anything with the verdict here. If the guy was convicted, there should still be blowback on sanctuary cities. So that's worthwhile noting as well.